my condolences for your brother. I mean, that is a terrible thing to happen to anyone. But just keeping in mind, as I said, that your case is still active in court.
The cases are still active in court.
Yeah, well, cases.
Yes.
But I'm talking about this particular case, the one for which you just emerged from the
prison.
correctional facility. You described President Tinubu as a criminal. Was that a political opinion, rhetorical language, or a factual allegation? If it's the latter, are you going to present evidence in court?
It's a statement of fact, and I want to draw your attention to what the NDLA Act states. That's the National Drug Law.
Well, please be.
No, we're not talking about my case now. You asked me a question.
Yeah.
And it says that if anybody has been involved in drug dealing, drug trafficking, there's no statute of limitation. The NDLA can still try you. Even if you are president, when your presidency is over, we can make that point. And in this case, it's not just that. There were cases during NSAS. There was a case that was active at the Lagos State High Court of embezzlement of billions of taxes that were supposed to be paid by Alphabet as linked to this president. He never handled that case. So they told us after NSAS that the documents were burnt in the courtroom so that they can cover up that we have several of these. What I told them is that, why don't you just calm down? Let's prove this case in court. But when we were at the point of proving the case the most, our attorney was ripping apart their one single witness, a DSS guy who said he found out that I made this statement. The judge got upset. He said, stop. If you don't stop, come and kneel down here. It's never happened before. Trying to ask my lead attorney, Marshal Abubakar, to kneel down before a judge because they didn't want us to present our evidence. And ever since then, it has been, let's arrest Sowore, or they charge me afresh with something new, or they harass me. This has been what they did. Don't forget that when this case started, and you said, don't discuss the case too much, I was charged with Facebook and Twitter. They went behind my back and pleaded with Facebook and Twitter not to leave the case. And they settled out of that and left me alone in the case. Because they know that we can subpoena documents from these people to show the evidence of their own interference with the activities of these companies to make sure that free speech does not exist in Nigeria. Yes.
Do you believe Nigeria today is becoming less democratic than it was 5 or 10 years ago? Or are today's institutions simply reinforce or enforcing laws previous governments chose to ignore?
No. Nigeria had a transition to civil rule. It never had become a democratic nation. That is one reality, and it's a hard fact that we must all accept. The fact that we accepted in 1999 that the military should leave and abandon us with a constitution that we knew nothing about how it was written, printed, or processed, and asking people to run for election and some people to oversee the election did not mean that we had democratic rule. That is why I have restated time and time again that what we had was a monocratic rule. Morons hijacked the democratic process in this country. That is why in 2026, after 36 years of driving the military out of power, I am still being dragged around by goons carrying gun at the Federal High Court, abducted, held at the basement of the Federal High Court, and with the intention of harming me if I resisted. I'm talking about the DSS. This was what they were doing to us in the university. And we're saying, if you had democracy, there will be rule of law, there will be popular participation. We'll have a country where elections are free, fair, and transparent. We'll have a country where people can believe that democracy will deliver to them the freshness of life. You don't have that. You don't have democracy. Those are basic tenets of democracy. Government 101 in secondary school. So if you don't have that, nobody should deceive you that you have democracy. And that is why I stand, and our movement members stand, and several other people in this country stand up to tell these guys who are running the country that you are not running the democratic system. Don't pretend that you're running the democratic system. And if you want us to have democracy, we will have democracy. But for Nigerians, you're not going to have democracy you want without confronting the guys who hate democracy. And that is what I see the Tinubu regime and these other guys who are operating in a democratic structure as. They hate the idea of democracy. They hate the idea of openness. They hate elections. And they hate the fact that you are striving to get a better country because they don't want that. They want you to live in a country where you are perpetually.
You've spent decades yourself leading protests, mobilizing citizens, contesting presidential elections.
Yes.
Looking back, where have you been most effective? As an activist or a politician?
Well, I have been effective at what I do. And that's why I don't allow people to demand of me experience. Because in the course of my current ordeal or incarceration, some clips surfaced that I came out to see when I got out of prison of when I was with Abiola at the age of 21. And that was a national assignment that I imposed upon myself. Nobody asked me to do it. And that was the period and the era and the effort that led to democratic rule in 1999. So I have done very well as far as my conscience is concerned regarding what I want my country to be like. But will I sit down here and start claiming victory when we are still being subjugated, when haven't achieved what we want to achieve, when we're still one of the poorest nations in the world? We don't have a military that can defeat ragtag militants, kidnappers and bandits or terrorists, as you call them. You don't have a country where people have prosperity in the midst of plenty. We are in the midst, we lack. So I can't stand here and sit here and declare victory. Nobody in my position should do that. But I can always do whatever my conscience tells me is right and mobilize our people and say, look, the barricade still is faulty. Haven't brought enough people to it. And until we do that, until we win, nobody should declare victory. And I don't like easy victory. I don't want to sit down here and promise you that next week I can come on your show because it might drag me back to prison. But am I ready for it? That I signed for the moment I knew that I would confront these monsters who have kept our country in this terrible condition that it has been over these years.
Now you've contested for the presidency more than once.
Yes.
But to be fair, you've attracted relatively few votes. Does that tell you Nigerians admire your courage but are not yet persuaded by your politics?
I think there's something we keep repeating here across this table all the time, that we cannot calculate whether my policies or my personality or my ideas are admirable to the Nigerian people until we start having free and fair elections. You can't throw a calculator at me, to solve a quadratic equation in which all the factorials are absent. That's where we are. So let's get to a point where we can have free and fair elections. And like I keep saying, free and fair elections do not start with election day activity. We want to see candidates come sit here with you, discuss ideas, and not their representatives. I keep saying that. We want to see us go to a situation where everybody is free to go to any part of Nigeria and campaign, and not one part of the country say, if you come to our place, we're going to kill you because this is not your Yoruba, this is Yoruba land. So until we have a country where these ideas can freely be dispensed with and facilitated and discussed and pushed down to all our people who want them, then we can't be talking about having free and fair elections.
Right.
And then the election the activities itself must be transparent. People must have real-time access to election results. You must have real representation, not I say I'm AAC, I'm carrying an agent tag, and I'm APC because INEC has helped you to give my AAC tag. An APC person, and all the reps at certain polling units are APC people carrying fake tags of other parties. And most importantly, as you can see now, not a democracy or a democratic or electoral process in which parties are getting registered after they have presented their presidential candidates, where your judges are determining the results of the election when you say 80 million people or 93 million people should vote, 7 people sit down at the Supreme Court and say, oh, you haven't provided evidence that people voted or didn't vote for anybody. That is not democracy.
Right. Well, let me put this in a different way, because you talked about the need for free and fair elections, which I think most Nigerians would agree with. I mean, the country needs to have a way of accurately measuring votes in the country. I mean, honestly measuring votes. But talking about your own kind of politics and what you do, I mean, your courage, your consistency, which a lot of people would recognize, but I talked about the fact that maybe the way you talked about the way that you would measure the results of the elections, that they're not free and fair. You can't accurately measure them. But what about the fact that you call people consistently to come out onto the streets and join you to protest, and they never come out in significant numbers? Is the problem that Nigerians aren't ready for your ideas, or that you haven't yet found a way to persuade them to come out?
So when we call out people to come for protest, we are calling on the critical mass. But don't forget that when you are calling on people to come out and protest, you're also calling on them to come and confront your police and the army and the DSS who kill people during NSAS. And don't forget that I was one of the people who mobilized people for NSAS. In fact, I was the first to go to the police headquarters here in Abuja to start NSAS. So when consistently people get killed when they're engaging in peaceful protests, people get jailed when they make Facebook posts about their public officials, you do not expect to find a huge number of people who are willing to take all this risk from time to time. So you are left with a few very critical mass who are willing to take all the risk. Before I was arrested and sent to jail this last week, I was tear gassed in front of the Eagle Square, even though the commissioner of police had told us that we wrote through Fenifal and a lawyer that we're protesting. They said we're free to go. When we got there, on the other side of it were the APC supporters. Our side was tear gas. I was tear gas. I collapsed, in front of police because they were using this tear gas that choked me completely. I didn't carry any arms. So when you look at all of these factors combined together, would you blame Nigerians when they don't come out and mass for protests? No. But if you call on them to come and watch BB Nigeria, you see thousands of people because it's escapism. So it is a dangerous, dangerous job to go out there and lay your life on the line.
And yet you keep doing it.
No, we keep doing it. And it's so you can't blame me for calling on people and they don't come out.
Right.
Blame the people who have made it a crime or who have weaponized the security services to kill anybody who challenges who are in power. And don't forget, there was a time in this country I called on all policemen to come fight for themselves. I did the fight for them. They got promoted, 74,000 of them. Some of their retired people got some money, not significant. The next day, I was arrested. One of the policemen I was fighting for came and broke my right arm. So you live in a country like that. Why would you expect people? You don't know what people tell me these days. Why don't you just pack your things and leave? Maybe these people are not white worth dying for. But I'm not dying for Nigerians. I'm dying for what I believe is right by my conscience. And I would have done it if I was in the US or I was a Palestinian or I found myself in South Africa.
But
I would have done the same thing.
What about the fact that the way, because you talk about democracy,
Yes.
and you talk about using the democracy the right way.
Yes.
I mean, what about, you've often dismissed the mainstream opposition as different faces of the same establishment, basically.
That's correct.
Yet many Nigerians believe that defeating an incumbent requires broad coalitions within that democratic sort of space. Are you prepared to compromise with politicians that you've long criticized as a way of getting yourself into office and then starting to change things from within rather than without?
that there are people in this country, Nigeria, who have had a chance to go the other way. And I've described the compromises that these people made in Nigeria, assuming they were genuine, as going to the graveyard of human conscience. I could not, in good conscience, wake up one day and compromise with a politician who engaged in genocide that I know of, covered, and had condemned in the past, when we have not punished them for the genocide they committed. I cannot wake up in this country and join a political party of a guy who stole all the money that could have trained children to become graduates and become successful in life, or the people who took money that were meant for roads, in which you and I have lost private relatives, whether distant or close. I can't sit down with them when they have not changed their ways, and I know they're not going to change their ways. So I look at the people of Nigeria, and that is what I call the coalition of the oppressed. And so let's celebrate our liberation by fighting these other people. So it's not as if we have not thought about it before, but I know that we are dealing with very hardened, criminally minded people. And they have done it consistently from time to time. They were governors, they stole. They were ministers, they destroyed the country. They were they led agencies, ruined it. And if you meet them, they're not even remorseful. All they tell you is that, let's come join us. You're just taking life too hard. Let's go destroy the country. Why did I do all these years of activism for? If all I want to do is to go and join the coalition of people who destroyed Nigeria.
Well, look,
and the people, let me state that before you come in, who have often made these allusions that maybe you should soften a little bit. They themselves have joined coalitions, and now ended up without coalitions. Because even amongst them, they can't tolerate their type of coalition building that
let me
prescribed
say
to the
this,
country.
because we're fast running out of time. We've got about a couple of minutes left. I mean, you've experienced arrests, detention, trials, repeated confrontations with successive governments.
Torture, yes.
Governments from different political parties, but whoever is in government. I mean, and you were telling me just at the outset the horrors of Nigerian prisons, and yet you still, you're prepared to go in there. Has there ever been a moment when you thought perhaps, the struggle isn't worth the personal cost? I mean, you have family, you have, all kinds of things. Isn't there another way to fight this battle?
Well,
I mean, for example, you didn't have to call the president a criminal and risk being prosecuted.
Yes,
I mean, you could have used less strident language.
Let me see. Just society doesn't have a basis for victimization, right? There are people who got killed in this country who never called anybody anything, right? And all of them are victims of...
Yeah, but we're talking about your own case. You called somebody something.
Yes, I didn't call a person a criminal in 1992 when I got expelled from the university. I didn't call somebody a criminal in 1996 when he seized my NYC certificate and put me in a dungeon. I didn't call anybody a criminal. I just said, look, we want this country to be run the right way. Obafemi Awolowo probably didn't call anybody a criminal. Several other people, Gani Fawemi, you might say that, his head, we're all from Ondo State. What I'm trying to tell you is that if you have a pension justice, social justice, political justice, economic justice, that's all you need to offend the system. And as long as you're not compromised and you're not compromising and you're not willing to compromise, that's all you need to offend the system your entire life. So it doesn't matter. But in our own case, we have to take the hard route because it is necessary. Don't forget, even though we're discussing democracy here, my own attitude towards democracy is a revolutionary democracy, where the people step out all at once and change the system because the system must fall. There's no way the system can sustain your development, your progress, your prosperity. The system is here to devour you, and you have a duty to take down the system.
Okay.
That's the revolution that I preach.
Right.
And that requires that we use the appropriate language, adjective, adverb, noun to describe people who are destroying the country.
Okay.
Whether they are the ones there now or the ones that are coming, because we need a country that belongs to us, and we don't have to mince words about it.
Okay, Omoyele Sowore, I want to thank you very much indeed. And I have to say that I'm glad that you're sitting here rather than sitting in a lake somewhere. It's much better to have you sitting here and sharing your ideas.
You never know what goes on in there.
Yeah, well,
Sometimes,
to be honest with you, I'd much rather not know.
yes.
But
I consider it a privilege that I can go sit there just for doing what is right.
Right. Well, Omoyele Sowore is an activist, publisher, and presidential candidate of the African Action Congress. Thank you very much indeed for obliging us and coming in tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. Good evening.
You're watching Arise Prime Time. Plenty more still ahead. I'll be joined in the studio by the National Coordinator of the Obedient Movement, Dr. Yunusa Tankard. Stay with us.
Please, if you rent cameras, the first thing you do as you take the camera is check the settings. I have rented the camera before. I assumed that they were shooting on RAW. I shot on the lowest possible JPEG. This was an exhilarating experience. The audience were wonderful, they were engaging, they were ecstatic, and the class was it was very insightful, getting to understand how to relate with your clients, how to follow up, structures, consultation sessions.
I rate my class a 9.5 over 10. It was very impactful and insightful.
One of the easiest things to do in photography is to actually take the photos. Do you agree? My take home is basically the follow-up with clients and basically how to communicate with them.
Some of the things that I wasn't paying attention to, he brought them to my attention.
Thank you, Fidelity Bank, for this opportunity. It was an amazing one.
Thank you, Fidelity. Thank you, Fidelity Bank.
Thank you so much, Creative Arts by Fidelity Bank. Shout out to Fidelity Bank.
Your Fidelity, we keep our word. The team can handle you. The visitors just need the tool.
Dad, could you film me? Oh yeah! Final call to flight 870. Something to fill my belly. I want my golden belly noodles full of flavor. I want what I want. Golden belly noodles is sweet. It was made for me. I want what I want. Golden belly noodles is sweet. It was made for me. I want what I want.
Right in the heart of Wuse Zone 3 Abuja, a new experience has arrived. Welcome to See-Through. 3 amazing destinations under one roof. See-Through Burge Apartments and Lounge, See-Through Therapy Relaxation Lounge, and Care Plus Pharmacy and Supermarket, your trusted 24-hour pharmacy. Looking for the perfect place to relax? Enjoy luxury sip and paint sessions, mouth-watering meals, tasty barbecue and suya, premium shisha, and fine red wines, all in one elegant atmosphere. There's even more. Buy this luxury electric vehicle for just 114 million naira. Plus, spend 200,000 naira at See-Through Therapy Lounge and qualify for a raffle draw to win the luxury electric vehicle. See-Through, where relaxation, wellness, and healthcare come together. For reservations, call 0706 001.
Welcome back to Arise Prime Time, where we offer perspectives on the news and talking points of the day. I'm Charles Nanyekolo. Now, every election season comes with big promises, but perhaps no promise is bigger or more difficult than the promise to unite Nigeria, a country divided by politics, ethnicity, religion, insecurity, and deep economic hardship. Well, now Peter Obi says that if elected president in 2027, national unity will become the foundation upon which he intends to rebuild the country. His latest policy blueprint argues that Nigeria's greatest resource is not oil, but its people, promising sweeping reforms in education, healthcare, and skills development to create what he calls a production-driven economy. It's an ambitious vision, reducing the number of out-of-school children, expanding technical and vocational education, building industrial parks across the country, and preparing young Nigerians for the jobs of tomorrow. But after decades of similar promises from successive governments, the question many Nigerians are asking is simple. What makes this plan different? Can a country this politically divided really be united by policy? Well, for more on this, I'm joined now in the studio by the national coordinator of the Obedient Movement and former spokesperson for Obi's 2023 presidential campaign, Dr. Yunusa Tanko. Thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Thank you very much for having me, Charles.
We're very grateful to you.
Thank you so much.
Let's start with this newly revealed vision. Peter Obi says his presidency will begin by uniting Nigeria. I mean, obviously it sounds very admirable, but it's also an enormous claim. In concrete terms, what would he do that Nigerians would actually feel as evidence that the country is becoming more united?
Not only would he unite the country, he would energize the Nigerian youth. The Nigerian youth have already been divided along the lines of the elite and the future. And that is why they talk very closely to his policies and his belief. You ask me one concrete thing, agriculture. Every time His Excellency Mr. Peter Obi speaks, he speaks about agriculture. He has given you statistics of what Niger State, which is almost equal to Nigerland as well, what it can produce, and 3 times what income we are making.
Yeah, but I wanted to talk about the unity first.
When you talk about,
get to that.
You mentioned one, and I'm telling you areas in which, especially the northern part, will benefit from. Now, when you talk about unity, 56 years ago precisely, that was the last time we had this civil war. Okay? And the civil war has created a lot of division, distrust between the north and the south. And the last time we had a president from the southern extension was 60 years ago. And with Nnamdi Azikiwe and Aguiyi Ironsi and a lot of. These are people who also are Nigerians. But we've never thought of whatever the pain or pain that they are feeling too. And by bringing in somebody from their extraction and believing in him, it gives them hope and trust. And at the end of it all, unite the country. His Excellency Mr. Peter Obi does not even tout tribal line. He touts unity based on competence and capacity, which he has. And I want to say this clearly. Time immemorial, where Nigeria has suffered this particular issue of divide and rule between the north and the south, especially in the case of MKO Abiola. Remember when we lost him to tragic situation and all? The north also came in and sacrificed their interests and bringing in President Olusegun Obasanjo. So this is another time to bring in a Peter Obi to unite the country. This is the sacrifice that the north has always been doing. So, and this is the best time to also exemplify it and make it happen. In fact, to tell you the truth, one of the basic reasons for me joining this particular campaign, even long before His Excellency Mr. Peter Obi become a presidential candidate in any of the parties, I have been championing this particular cause. And I give a fact. Go and check my statement at the Women's Center in Oka. I spoke. Senator Ben Obi was there, and the former president of Waniza was there, and Alhaji Balarabe Musa, may his soul rest in perfect peace, supported this particular idea. He was our leader. And what we are thinking is that the country first, not any individual, not any group. So we were actually amplifying this cause to say, okay, we need a country that is united. Not when you have to travel to the north you have to be scared of whether you have to wear a jalabia or not. No, we're talking about when you go, wear in the shagu, your own native land, dress, so that people in the north can see it and admire it and say, yes, I like this. Can I also get the copy of it? The same thing too from the northern part coming to the south. But now everybody is scared. Everybody is scared because the deficit of trust. And because of that, His Excellency Mr. Peter Obi did something that is very phenomenal. What did he do? He made sure he picked Engineer Musa Kwankwaso as his deputy. And I thank God, and which I appreciate that Engineer Musa Kwankwaso also agreed to serve as a vice. That is the kind of sacrifice we are looking for. And it has already been exemplified. So because you want the northern people to have trust, because if you like, whether you like it or not, Engineer Musa Kwankwaso has been a crusader in defending the interests of the northern part. So if any northerner want to have confidence in this particular joint ticket, he must have trust in Engineer Musa Kwankwaso. And that is unity.
Well, I mean, Peter Obi says these things. I mean, you made a very interesting point about Olusegun Obasanjo. When Obasanjo came in, Obasanjo had many, many years of, I mean, he'd been military head of state. He was a big democracy advocate because he handed over to civilians. He'd been talking consistently without running for office or having any presidential ambition and being seen as somebody who, was making promises on the base. He just was that kind of person. And so he had been that way for so long that he was able to engender trust and was a unifying figure in the sense that here we were coming off military rule, but he was a former military person himself. But here we were heading towards democracy, and he was a military person who handed over to civilians. So in that sense, he represented so much. He personified so much. So he really didn't have to do that much. And of course, when he became president, I mean, he exemplified that in the way he appointed the cabinet and reflected this broad church across Nigeria. People will ask questions, though, about how Peter Obi intends to do this, because Peter Obi has always been more of a regional character than a national one. I mean, he was a regional governor, a state governor and all the rest of it. How exactly does he intend to build trust among regions and communities that increasingly, as you correctly pointed out, distrust one another?
Because, like, for example, he's a kind of a practical person. I'll just give you a practical example in order to get the trust of the North in particular. And he did that. But not only that, because he also knew that Engineer Musa Kwankwaso runs a populist agenda, meaning that he is interested in education, technical work of training the children, transforming their lives from poverty to prosperity and all of that. So their ideology meets together. So in the case of his practical situation, as what he has done, because when you are touting the idea of unity, it's not something that you say. You must have practicalized it one way or the other. Today, the ADC to His Excellency Mr. Peter Obi is alive. He's a man from Kano State. He was his ADC. So when you're looking for trust, the first person that you trust is a man behind you with a gun, and he's a northerner, and he's still living alive. So you see, practically he has exemplified it. In terms of trust, I am one of his aides. I'm from North, I'm from Kano State. I speak on his behalf. Sometimes even if I speak, he doesn't query me. You understand what I'm saying? So that is another enormous trust. One of the biggest organizations in Nigeria today, you can say, is the Obedient Movement. And I am heading it, or I'm coordinating it when he is the leader. That is enormous trust. I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one. There's Mala Ibrahim, there's Mala Ibrahim. At the point that there's a lot of us who
but a lot of people would argue that that's not. I mean, if you go to the APC, if you go to Atiku Abubakar's camp, I mean, they've all got people from different ethnicities who are close to them. I mean, Atiku's spokesman, Paul Ibe, is from the southeast.
Yes,
I mean, you've got people from, different persuasions. Atiku, the President Tinubu has people from different parts of the country and so on.
Exactly.
So that's not necessarily an example of the fact that this is how you're going to kind of unite the country.
One of the major problems that we have in this country is trust. If you can't trust your aide, you can't trust the people that work with you, then you have a problem. That's true. We can argue that. So, but then the fact is that when you say practical example, I just gave you one. And I also said what he extended as regard to what he intends to do by working together with Engineer Rabi Musa Ponkusu. The first thing that he is interested in is agriculture. I've mentioned it. And he's also talking about technical work that's going to transform the children. And he's also talking about, about education, pulling people from about 20 million out of school children back into the educational line. Apart from that,
that's what every government says.
But then
they're going
you have to give an opportunity for somebody to practicalize what he has done over in his own state. He has done it in his state.
Well, let me ask you this, just on that same theme of national reconciliation. Would a P2B administration be prepared to devolve more powers to the states, restructure aspects of the federation, pursue constitutional reforms as part of this national reconciliation?
To follow up what he said in the recent very short time, you'll be seeing him unleashing his policies. He's not talking about Akara and Nagodu. No. He's talking about technically turning around the fortune of Nigerians. That when you go to school, you deserve to earn a living based on what you have learned. If it's technically you have learned that, not for you to reduce somebody who has gone to school to go to four corners of the university and or you now return into a street beggar. Even if you are going to sell Akara or sell Agbado, it must be done in a unified manner that can bring in more money into the country. But not in this one conventional way. So we must talk, and this person that we're talking about has been able to generate a lot of interest of the Nigerian youth. They believe in him, strongly so. Even those who do not believe in him in the northern part, some of them, has already started having the feeling that, look, this man has been able to account for every kobo that he has led a state. This man has been able to pay up the salaries and wages and even gratuity of pensions of workers that work under him. This man has been able to connect with the people, ensuring that their industries and all are working. This man has been able to talk about the educational system in his state, transforming his children, the children of that particular state from 26th position to number 1. This same person has been able to secure the life and properties of his people. Who wouldn't want that person as a president?
Well, PJB wants to expand technical and vocational education. I mean, that's part of what you were saying in that statement that was released along the German model.
Yes.
Germany's apprenticeship system is supported by a highly industrialized economy. Nigeria doesn't yet have that.
That is why he's been talking about.
Nigeria doesn't have that industrial base. What comes first, the skilled workers or the industries that will employ them?
Do you want even an industry exam when you don't have the workers? The workers first, of course. You must train them before you can even have the industry. Because if you don't have a workforce, you may be importing workforce from another country, and that will not develop your economy. So the first thing is that's why majority of us go to school, don't we? We want to learn exactly how we are going to turn around A, B, C, D. So when you say technical school, it's very fundamental. When you teach them how to be technically indoors, it helps to build the country, the kind of production company that will go in line with what they have studied. But when you have a volume of industry and then you have no workers, what do you expect? A total collapse of the production.
So he argues that Nigeria must move from consumption to production. I mean, it's a popular phrase.
That's right.
And it's become a sort of almost a cliche. But if he became president, what would be the first economic decision that would begin to translate that into action?
Cut waste, unnecessary spending, accounting to the people. When you say you're going to do ABC, you do ABC. That's what we don't have in our system. Most of our leaders don't even account for what is under their coffers. And when you can account and say, I apply ABC, and even pity those who work with Mr. Peter Obi as president, because every day and night they'll be engaged in work. I'm telling you, there's no rest for them. Because he has a 4-year tenure that he said he's going to do. And you can believe that he's going to turn around the whole country into a kind of a production country.
Yeah, but you know, one recurring criticism of opposition parties in this country is that they come up with these very attractive visions. They produce these attractive, but not detailed implementation plans. When will Nigerians see the numbers, the costings, the timelines, the measurable targets, the sources of funding
This where you say there's a taste in the pudding? Is that how they say it or something like that?
The taste of the pudding is in the eating.
Yes, exactly. So eat Mr. Peter Obi as president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Yeah, but we need to know how he's going to do
But
it
he has
before
always,
we
like I
give
said,
him
I've
a
also
chance.
told you, he said he was going to start unleashing them one after the other. That was his promise. Even in the statement, he said so. So he will give you an account of how he intends to do so. But we, as a people, we have seen the past, what he has been able to do. If I tell you a particular story, you'll be wondering how that gets in. There was a discussion that happened between him and when he was member of the PDP and government and His Excellency Alhaji Atiku Abubakar was the vice president. There was a project. This particular project was to cost, as presented, 30 billion. I'm just using an example of figures, 30 billion naira. When he was asked, he said, he just laughed and said, that thing will not cost us more than 3 billion naira. He said, is you sure? And all the other people were seated around. They were like, how this man going to stop us from eating our money from here? You understand? You know, the normal Nigerian way. And he said it can be done in 3 billion naira.
Yeah.
And then before
I have an idea of what you're talking about with this lot.
Yeah. So immediately he was like, okay. Excellency asked him, Peter, can you do it? He said, yes, sir. And the next morning, he made a position of extra change that can be beneficiary to anyone that is legally entitled to it, not illegal.
Well, that's something that is
So
good
practically,
to hear.
they know the kind of quality of a person that he is. He's a person that can generate funds, he's a person that can execute funds, and he also can account for funds.
Right.
And those are the three qualities that is lacking in our governance as a people.
Nevertheless, Peter Obi isn't campaigning in a vacuum. He faces an incumbent president with all the advantages of office, as well as another formidable contender. You just mentioned Atiku Abubakar. Is Mr. Obi better positioned to win in 2027 than he was in 2023?
Far, far better.
How
Because
so?
a lot of decay already in the system. And I want to say this, I'm using this as an opportunity. We put up a Peter Obi to debate with any candidate. Let them be sure that they are there.
No, I'm not talking about the debate.
Wait a minute. What I mean is that, let me ask you,
what has Peter Obi done since 2023 to strengthen his political machinery rather than simply repeating the arguments about the last election?
keeping the government in power on their toes continuously. There was one single presidential candidate that had been able to do that from day one after the election. It was only His Excellency Mr. Peter Obi. And I'm meant to be challenged by anybody.
I'm talking about his organization.
Organization, of course, continuously we keep on improving. Here I am. We are organizing. We are mobilizing. We put up our structures into the movement. He's gotten a political party. The political party is now moving. His name has already been uploaded as of yesterday.
Okay, talking about a political party, we've got about a minute and a half, and I apologize for that. But time gallops ahead. Your party is currently challenging the Federal High Court decision that set aside the judgment compelling INEC to register the NDC. How concerned are you that this legal uncertainty could affect Peter Obi's plans?
I'm even thinking my own fear is actually for the federal government. Because the moment they trample upon that particular angle, there's a lot of problem on the ground. The Nigerian youth will resist it.
No, but we're
that's
talking
dangerous
about a
for us.
court decision. I mean,
court or no, we all know where the court are tending to us. Because how can you vomit? I can use vomit and then you swallow the vomit. It's not correct.
so you're saying that Peter Obi would take an extra legal position if the court decision doesn't suit his...
The court
what
at the
he
moment now,
wants.
Charles, at the moment now, it is not about the court decision. It's about the Nigerian people. They are tired. Even we that are championing their cause, we cannot escape their anger. Even we, I'm telling you this. You can do your statistics around. Even Mr. Peter Obi cannot escape their anger. Because they are not angry only with the government, they are angry totally with the system. Sometimes, even myself, as I'm sitting here, I'm, of course, being challenged to give account of everything that I do. They need a change, and they are tired of the system. The system has disappointed them to a point of stupor that they don't even believe in anybody anymore. They just want to see Nigeria that grows. You can't imagine we, Nigerians, who have helped certain countries to grow, now we are being deported out of the particular country. It's shameful. They are not in any mood for any child's play. Let me tell you, they are not. It's not about me. It's not about His Excellency Mr. Peter Obi. It's not. They are already on their own. They are extremely angry. The system has not treated them well. He has not taken care of their education. He has not taken care of their security. He has not taken care of their welfare. He has not even thinking that they are secured as citizens of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So where do you want them to go to?
On that note, I want to thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me. God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Wish you the best.
And I want to thank you for coming in.
Thank you very much for having me.
That. Dr. Yunusa Tanko is the National Coordinator of the Obedient Movement. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Hamid. God bless Nigeria.
That's it for this edition of Arise Prime Time. Join us again tomorrow. From me and the entire team here in Abuja, bye-bye, and thank you for watching.
It is often said that seeing is believing. Look around. Everything you see here was brought to life in just 6 months. 6 months. This is not a promise. This is proof. I am inviting you all to the official commissioning of amenities as Michelle Hutu exclusive on Saturday, the 4th of July, 2026.
There are stories that make the heart race. When love is born in the most dangerous moments.
Ali was actually poisoned, Ali.
Each secret can destroy everything. Love, passion, power, lies.
It's not the first time you let me down. It was my mistake for trusting an idiot like you.
The dramas that make you feel everything. Catch the sizzling episodes of Susan Roses at 4 p.m., Domenica Teiro at 5 p.m., Viva Sunshine at 6 p.m., and Avenida Brazil at 7 p.m. Central African Time. Only on Dallas
I grew up in a